Welcome into another episode of the Strength for Your Purpose podcast, everybody. Hope you have been doing well. We had a short little hiatus here, but we are back and coming at you strong. This is someone that I was introduced to a while ago, and right before we started recording this interview, we were chatting about it was probably a good thing because we were introduced like weeks before my second kiddo was born. So that whole, even if we had scheduled something, it probably wouldn't have happened. So great to finally bring this person to you all, because this is something that I have never heard of being out there. So I think it's going to be a fantastic resource for people out there who need this. So I am being joined today, kind of without further ado here, by Crissy Freeman, who is a divorce empowerment coach. And Crissy says, I get you. In my mid-40s, I made a difficult decision to leave my marriage after 19 years and face the fear of being a single mom, maintaining a full-time job, and the anxiety of financial insecurity. As a child of divorce myself, I had spent my whole life doing what I thought others expected of me. Meanwhile, I was suffering on the inside because I was ignoring my own needs. It was time to make a change. No more excuses. And that's so powerful, Crissy. I can't wait to talk more about this. Thank you so much for joining me.
Yes, thank you for having me.
Yeah, no, this is fantastic. I was thinking about this heading into the interview because I have two daughters, so I think there are a lot of things that I'm going to learn here that I'm going to be able to kind of instill in them and hopefully carry over to them. But tell us just a little bit more about yourself. You know, kind of your journey and what drove you to this passion of helping other women who might be in that exact position that you just described there in your bio.
Sure, absolutely. So, I think we all have a vision when we're young of what success looks like. And for me, what that looked like was, going to school. Once I finished high school, going to college, graduating, meeting someone, getting married, having, 2.5 kids or whatever that looks like,
Sure.
and get it and finding or getting a successful career for
Mm.
yourself. And check, check, check. I was able to check all of those boxes. I went to college. I met my husband there. Very soon after college, we got married. And within a few years after getting married, we had children.
Mm.
And to the outside world, it absolutely looked like the dream.
Mm.
And in my mind, okay, I had accomplished what I needed to. Here was the dream. But what kept coming up for me was, why am I not happy? I
Mm.
have all of these things. Why am I not happy? And as a child of divorce, one of the things that I think a lot of people tend to do, myself included, is when you get married, I've had this vision or this thought since I was a young child that when I get married, I'm never getting divorced.
Mm.
I'm never going to put my children through it. I'm never going to have them go through what I went through. And so it's sort of this, absolute that you set for yourself.
Yeah.
And that can be really difficult, especially when you're in a situation like I was in, where here I am really struggling as the marriage started to fall apart.
Mm.
I was holding on literally with my fingernails,
Mm.
just, saying, nope, nope, I'm not going to do this. And I'm not going to do this to my children.
Mm.
And so after 19 years, I did get to that place where I really just couldn't maintain anymore. There was a lot of anxiety that was coming up for me. And I had to let go of what I thought everyone else wanted for me and really get clear on what did I need for myself to show up better
Mm.
as a friend, show up better as a mom, show up better, as an employee.
Mm.
Um, and so that meant making some hard decisions.
Yeah.
And so I did that. After 19 years, I made that decision to end the marriage. And there I sat. I was like, okay, this is great. Not great, meaning there was a lot of pain and suffering along the way for
Mm.
all of us. But I was like, okay, for the first time in my life, I made a decision that's right for me. And
Mm.
I know it's right for me.
Yeah.
The challenge was I then realized once the divorce was finalized and everything sort of quieted down, the friends weren't calling anymore to say, how are you? I was frozen. It
Mm,
was like, okay, here I am. I did this. I've been so unhappy for so long. Now what?
mm,
And at that point, I said to myself, I don't know where to turn. I
mm,
was used to other people, doing things for me, making decisions for me.
mm,
And here I was ready to create this new life.
mm,
And I didn't know what to do, between guilt that came up right away, between financial insecurity that came up, and just not knowing how I was going to navigate
mm. Yeah.
starting this business. Is I realized, there really wasn't a resource out there that at least I could find outside of therapy, which I did get and I continue to have.
Mm,
I didn't have someone some action steps into play to start to move my life forward. And
mm.
so that's what really got me to where I am now, which is being this divorce empowerment coach for women.
Yeah. Well, that's incredible. And I applaud you for going through all of that without a lot of the things that you are now able to support people who are going through that. So that I think that takes a lot of self-awareness that kind of comes the hard way, you know?
Yes.
And then to then be strong enough to share that with other people is also very admirable. So hats off to you. And a bunch of things are kind of popping into my mind here, but I think one of the first things that I go to is that idea of really being able to evaluate your own happiness and your own needs and what you need to do to fulfill that own happiness. Cause I think a lot of people see that as like, oh, that's incredibly selfish. And in
Mhm.
marriage, it's like supposed to be both of you and all this, but it's so true. And I loved what you said. This is a very common theme here on the podcast with guests from all different areas of the really the wellness sphere. And that is being able to perform at your best takes investing in yourself first and foremost, because you can't be a good husband, wife, mom, dad, brother, friend, employee, whatever, without you can't pour more out of yourself without pouring enough in. So talk a little bit about how you kind of help people maybe navigate some of like the guilt or embarrassment or whatever that those terms may be that kind of come along with having to be okay with being selfish, but not in a way that ignores others.
Yes, it's a great point. I mean, so many things that you said, I resonated with me, but there is a real stigma around divorce. I mean, you would think, we've evolved over the years and that, that has changed, but it really hasn't.
Yeah.
And a lot of us have that mindset, you get married, you're in it.
Mm,
And I believe that's why a lot of people do hang on for as long as they do. And sometimes they don't ever get divorced. And for those, that do hang on, it takes, something really shifting in you to say, I want something better. I want something better for myself. I deserve it. As does everybody else involved, meaning the children involved. And when you're not happy, it's reflected in everything that you do.
yeah.
And so for my clients, a lot of what I hear when they come see me is this whole feeling of being stuck.
Mm,
And when I say stuck, I mentioned guilt earlier. That's really the primary one that comes up is,
mm,
I'm ready to move forward. I'm not necessarily regretful of the divorce and making that decision, but what I'm really struggling with is this guilt around, you know, are my kids going to be okay?
mm,
Did I make the right decision for them?
mhm,
And we project that on them.
Yeah.
And we don't really know what their experience is necessarily. Only they know their experience.
Mm,
And so then what I moms, especially single moms, tend to do is we overcompensate.
mm,
So it becomes okay. I am now the one and only here, and I'm going to make sure that they're okay,
mm,
which means a lot of constant checking in, a lot of, oh, I want to make sure that, they feel supported constantly. And so you let go of your own needs and you
mm,
kind of lose sight of who you are in the process. And
mm,
so that's what I do is I really help women to try to, so I've developed this sort of there's these 6 pillars. It's a system that I've created for my clients.
yeah.
And we start there. So we start sort of at what I kind of refer to as the clearing, which is basically like, let's clear everything out and start with a new foundation here.
Mm,
And what that means is really focusing on that person in the mirror.
mm,
And so, how do we really get back to who she is, what she needs,
mm,
and get that for her? So, I find that a lot of that happens with establishing new habits.
mm,
So, we want to let go of the old. So we want to let go of really clearing out old habits that just didn't work for us or aren't working for us
mm,
and establish new habits going forward.
mm,
And when I say habits, people are like, oh, what does that mean? Well, it's really about taking small steps every day to get to where you want to be.
mm,
And so one of the first things that I talk to my clients about is creating in their home. It can be, a room, it can be a small space in their room, it can be anywhere, but I refer to it as what I call their sanctuary.
mm,
So it's their space that belongs to them.
yeah.
Because in this process, as a single mom, you really don't have a lot that belongs to you and you only.
Yeah.
And so I talk to them about, okay, let's look at how we can create this space where you can go to kind of get away from it all.
Mm,
And, it might have a lot of sunlight coming in the room and, that makes you feel good. Or it might be a little nook where in the morning you can get up early, it's still dark and you can have a light on.
mm,
And, you can sit there and you can be silent,
mm,
you can journal, you can meditate,
mm,
or you can sing. I mean, you can
yeah.
really do whatever you want. I mean, I try to be creative with clients, but the whole idea is to really start to create this space for yourself
Mm,
where all you're doing there is focusing on yourself.
mm.
And so there's many things that we go through kind of in that first stage of the process, but I'll stop there and see if you have any questions on that.
Yeah, no, that's fantastic. One big and this question kind of came up for me even just hearing more of your journey. Kind of in your opinion, maybe even your experience, and maybe you already do a little bit of this. How much of this could people actually take maybe before they get to a point where they're even thinking about divorce and maybe implement it? Is that something almost like, you know, it probably does take more like a professional therapy things, I'm not saying it's just going to be this easy as like create your own safe haven and then you know there's a lot more to it than that, and everything's going to be fine, but um have you worked with people who maybe want to prevent that outcome, or are there things like this that just investing in ourselves a little bit more and communicating that with people that we're with, our kids, spouse, things like that, that could help along the way? Or are these things that are somewhat more better suited for kind of taking care of ourselves after maybe these women have already sort of gotten past that point?
Yeah, I mean, I think, there are several, really good therapists out there. I absolutely think you should get therapy,
Mm,
whether that's couples counseling beforehand or whether that's individual. I
mm,
highly recommend that for anyone who's even considering divorce, is to
mm.
seek a professional, and talk to a professional. Now, there's a lot of life coaches out there as well who do focus on helping couples or helping an individual
Yep.
to heal and to make really good choices around whether or not you should make this decision. At
Mm,
the end of the day, the decision to make a divorce, to get divorced, excuse me, is a very personal one. It's very personal, and typically it's been several years or several things that have happened leading up to this point.
sure.
And so, I have yet to meet someone who just kind of made that decision on a whim, and, but it happens. It does
Sure.
happen.
Sure.
But yeah, so I would say, myself, if I were to speaking to my own experience,
Mm,
the best thing that I could have done is definitely doing marriage counseling. I would say that was something that it allowed me to go through the process with my spouse, and
mm,
to really, at the end of the day, I don't look back and say, you know what, I didn't do enough.
mm.
We did. And we both know we did. We did try, and
Yeah.
we did put that effort in. And so I would say, that's number one, is that, it is a very personal thing and a personal choice. But,
Mm,
I would say if you go that route, it gives both parties an opportunity to really work on things
mm.
before you make that decision.
Yeah.
The work that I do is really, it is such a difficult decision to make.
Mm,
And and typically people that are in that situation are in so much pain leading up to
mm.
that,
Yeah.
that at least I find for women, once they make that decision, it's, it feels like, oh my goodness, wow, I finally, like, I did that. And now what does that mean, for
Mhm.
me? And how do I heal?
Mm,
Because regardless of whether or not you made the decision, there is healing to do.
mm.
There just is. When
Yeah.
you end, I mean, that's your family. That is, you are a family unit for a period of time,
Mm,
regardless of how long it is. And so when that ends, regardless of who ends it,
mm.
there is a grieving period. Even if you don't feel it initially,
Yeah.
it hits you at some point. And
Yeah.
so you do need to do the healing. And that's what this whole clearing phase is all about. It's really about healing and determining how you can really go in and do the work around what just happened.
Mm,
Okay. And now how do I start to take steps forward,
yeah.
um, to forgive myself,
Mm,
in some cases, forgive my spouse,
mm.
and let go so I can move forward and
Yeah.
be the best mom that I can be, or the best, friend that I can be, daughter, et cetera, in the world.
Yeah. Awesome. You answered my question perfectly. That was that was
Oh,
great.
good, good.
That makes total sense. And it actually kind of leads really well into my next point. And this is actually something that's come up in a lot of different capacities on the podcast with previous guests as well. This common theme really fits into a lot of different areas of our wellness. But I want you to speak a little bit about the importance of having some of that guidance to help us look inward and figure all these things out. Like you said, find that new starting point, because there's
Mhm.
there's a there's a lot to get through there. And it's always been sort of surprising but yet unsurprising to me that we need someone else whose expertise is maybe in the thing we're going through, or the thing we're trying to address or improve, or whatever the case might be, that we need someone like that to look at stuff that is 100% us, you know,
Yeah.
and really has nothing to do with anybody else. It really only has to do with us, but we still need that guidance, support, accountability. And as you said, some of those like action steps, the launching off point, the pillars to get us to the next level. So talk about that a little bit, maybe like your own experience and what some of your clients sort of go through to maybe the benefit they get out of having that person that helps them identify that and work through those very deep personal things.
Yeah, that's a great question and comes up all the time. But my clients in particular, I find that, and with myself as well, the first thing that you do is you run from that,
Mm,
right? We want to run from those thoughts. We want to run from not feeling good, and with divorce, like anything, there's a lot of pain, there's a lot of hurt, and there's a lot of anger. And all you want to do is that to go away. And so a lot of people, when they come in to see me, they're so overwhelmed from busying themselves so that they don't have to feel all of the messiness that is there. So there's so much noise that all they want is that to go away. So what they've been doing, and what I did as well, is, every moment that they have where the kids aren't there and they're by themselves, they're picking up a phone and calling a friend and saying, hey, can we get together? Because you don't want to be alone in that house with your thoughts.
mm,
And so the inner work to me is about quieting that noise. And how do we do it and really get to the point of where you have to feel the pain in
mm,
order to get through it? You have to feel the anger. You have to feel, the uncomfortable feelings. But there's a way to do it. And like you said, it's like being with yourself. How
yeah,
people get really uncomfortable being with themselves
yeah,
sometimes. I think we all do. And
yeah.
so what I do as a coach is I really try to get people to be comfortable again with being with themselves
Mm,
and learning to love that person that they are, to really try to find out, part of the process is people sometimes, when they're in a situation like a marriage where they're really struggling,
mm,
they're so focused on that for so long that they forget what lights them up. They
mm,
forget, what did they used to love, when they would, before they even got married, what are the things that they used to love? And really trying to find that again. So part of what I do is I also help them to find that again, find their passion.
mm.
What are the things that light them up? It could be going to the park and swinging on a swing because they used to love to do it as a kid and they
Yeah.
just want that feeling again. It could be that they used to love going out in nature. Okay, you're going to take yourself out for a hike and you're
Mm,
going to really immerse yourself in nature and you're going to, feel your feet walking on the ground and listen to the, birds around you and just immerse yourself in it
mm,
and start to learn what it's like to be with yourself again. And
mm,
then, a lot of coaches use the journaling technique, which is
mm,
very helpful in the beginning, just to quiet your mind.
mm,
Because, I still journal. I've been journaling for years. And it just takes those thoughts that are in your mind, gets them out on paper. And in some cases, it, it, you can really just start with a gratitude practice where you just say, you know what? I want you to start by each morning getting up and you're going to write what today am I grateful for? I'm grateful that the sun is out, basic things.
mm,
Um, Again, to just get that noise to quiet down a little bit and
mm.
just go inward and get clear on what is it that you need, because we all need to take care of ourselves. Self-care is number one. So we do a lot of focus on that in the beginning to clear out that noise so
Mm.
that we can start to figure out what is it that, we want to do next.
Yeah. Yeah. When you could get pulled in so many different directions trying to navigate it yourself, it makes so much sense to have the help to narrow that down. You know,
Right.
I'm sure the aha moments you get helping people
Oh, a lot.
are incredible.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So for people that are hearing this, Crissy, that think like, is that me? Do I need that help? Do I fit into that category or someone who kind of needs to start working on that? What are some things that are really big indicators to an individual that this is something that is going to help them?
Yeah. So I think there's multiple things. I find that, if you find that a lot of fear is showing up,
Mm,
meaning fear around, for me, it was fear of being alone. Fear of being away from my kids,
mm,
fear of, oh my gosh, like I'm so used to the noise being around me, and I am so afraid of that quiet, and I am so afraid of being alone for the rest of my life. Being honest, that was a big fear of mine, like, oh my gosh, here I am in my midlife
mm,
going, and that a lot of my clients, are at that point where they're in their midlife, and it's like, I didn't think I was going to be here. And so there's a lot of fear that shows up. So if you are constantly feeling like, I don't want to be alone, I am so
mm,
afraid of it, that's one sign for sure.
mm,
If you feel like you're constantly asking people, what should I do? Meaning, give me the answer on this. What should I do? It's okay to ask people for help. That's not what I'm saying. I definitely think people should ask for support, and that's part of my program too.
yeah.
But if you are constantly unsure about what decision you should make to the point that you can't make them
Mm,
without asking somebody else, I definitely encourage people to get support, a coach, support. And
mm,
you can do it in collaboration with a therapist, depending upon what you're doing. Coaching is very different. I mean, people talk about, well, what's the difference between therapy and coaching? And, therapy is really looking back at, past trauma, past your past, and healing through that. Coaching is more about, okay, I'm meeting you where you are,
mm,
and now I'm going to get you where you need to go with a
mm,
series of questions, with a series of activities and actions that we're going to take so that you can take those action steps to move forward.
yeah.
So I see that. So I would say, yes, definitely fear is holding you back. You can't seem to make a decision on anything without checking with other people.
Mm,
I've also had clients who come and they say, oh my gosh, I jumped into another relationship right away because I was afraid of being alone. And now I'm stuck in this relationship that just isn't working for me. And I'm worse off than I was.
mm,
Um, that happens a lot. And
yeah.
so they're either just coming out of one of those relationships, or they're in one now and they're
Mm,
like, oh no, what did I do?
yeah.
I definitely would encourage people to reach out for
Mm,
help.
yeah. That's fantastic. I think, sometimes just those signs are hard to recognize. Like
Yeah,
when
absolutely.
so
Absolutely.
that's incredibly helpful. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I have a couple more questions here for you, Chrissy, but
Yeah.
before I ask you those questions, I want to give you an opportunity to tell people where they can find you. What's the best way to learn more about you, learn more about your practice, how you help people navigate this time of their life and empower them through this time in their life. So, what's the best way for people to learn more about you?
Yeah, absolutely. So my website is CrissyFreemanCoaching.com. And that's the best way to go and find more information about the work that I do. I highlight a little bit of information about my pillars there, but there's also, when you go onto my website, throughout my website, there's options to click on there and to set up a free, refer to as a discovery call, which is basically an opportunity for them to talk to me like this via Zoom, and just to really get to know me. Is it a fit? And they can ask questions. I can talk about where they are, or they can share where they are, and we can determine if we want to go forward. So they can do that by going to my website. And also, if they go to my website and they're just interested, I do have on my website a free document or tool that talks about building a healthy co-parenting relationship
Oh,
with
awesome.
your former spouse. And I find that that document has really been really popular with a lot of my clients and other people that have just really been needing help in that area, because that's another area where people really struggle after divorce, is really what is this next phase of our relationship? We were married and now we're co-parents. And how do we do that effectively and in a healthy way so that we can maintain good communication for ourselves as well as for our children? So
Yeah.
they can
Awesome.
go there to find that as well.
Awesome. Fantastic. We'll make sure we put all that information in the show notes for everybody as well, so they have easy access to the website.
Great.
So 2 more questions here for you, Crissy. We ask all of our guests here on the podcast these questions, and I'm really excited to hear your answers here. So the first one is, what is your definition of strength?
Of strength. Oh, wow. There's so much to that. I think strength is, being able to really forgive yourself.
Mm,
Forgive yourself. None of us are perfect. And I think sometimes we want to pretend that we are or that we
yeah.
can be. And really, it's just for forgiving ourselves that, we all make mistakes.
Mm,
We all, can learn from those. And
mm,
those of us that can learn and grow from those and change our lives and not, just stay in this stuck space, but instead want better for ourselves and forgive ourselves in the process.
mm.
I think that's the definition of strength.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yes, you're right. It is very all encompassing, which is why I ask everybody, because
Yeah, it's a great question.
everybody adds to that answer. That's fantastic. And then the last question I have here for you, Crissy, is, what is your true purpose in life?
Oh, my true purpose is to be in service to others. I've been in corporate America for years. My first sort of life has been as an HR professional for years. And so I've always loved working with people and helping people. And I don't know, I have this way, I think, of being able to use my voice
Mm,
to impact others. And so I always knew, even at a young age, I used to always like read things to think, oh, what is it? What am I meant to do? What is my real purpose? And I really think that my purpose is being in service to others.
mm,
And now, right now, in this day, as I talk to you, my purpose is to help women, is to really help women to really feel empowered to create the life that they truly want and deserve.
mm. Wonderful. Great. Well, that's fantastic. Well, I applaud you for really living out your true purpose in life, Crissy. And thank you so much for all your advice and your vulnerability. You're really, kind of continuing to put yourself out there to help other people who are going through things that you yourself have gone through. So it takes a lot of strength, courage, and bravery to do that. I think, to use your
Thank
own
you.
experiences to empower other people, and by doing so, kind of reliving a lot of that, right? So you're working through a lot of this stuff too as you're working with these
Yes.
people, and that's fantastic. They really have a friend in this, not just a coach or a mentor, and I can just tell that from the way that you talk about it. So thank you so
Thank
much
you.
for that.
Thank you. That's what I can only hope for,
Mm,
that they feel that they have someone who really is there by their side, supporting them through the process.
awesome. Well, thank you so much for your time. Really appreciate it.
Thank
Everybody go check out Crissy's website. Like I said, it is in the show notes, and please share this with someone that you think could benefit from this information, so that we can help more people fulfill their true purpose in life. Until then, go make it a great week, and we will see you back here next time on the Strength for Your Purpose podcast. Bye, everybody.